has a reputation forged in fire. Built on bravery, dedication, and danger. A dream job for young men and women.
Firefighters are one of the most respected professions nationwide.
It's getting harder every week, but like, I don't think I'd want to do anything else.
But privately, there's a dark side, a burning secret inside so many fire halls.
He would say if I wanted a promotion, why don't I put on my knee pads and blow him under his desk?
This is the untold story of women who stood up to the all-male brotherhood and the price they paid.
I reached a certain point where I felt I could no longer handle this.
Everything's fine in the fire department if you just shut up.
Despite this, they keep fighting.
I want to be firefighter.
Driven by the fire within.
Keep going.
I'm Mark Kelly, and this is The Fifth Estate. This is why we call them heroes. Everyday people who make it their job to run into danger when most would run away from it.
You know, you pull up to a scene.
I'll give an updated radio. I'll get another crew to do a primary.
And you have smoke showing and you have flames showing. You know your heart's in your throat and the adrenaline's pumping.
When our homes and our loved ones are at risk, we count on firefighters to save the day.
You have your bunker gear on, you throw your jacket on, you've got your mask. The incident commander takes you and says, you two are going to go in and do the first search with the teams.
And then I want you to go ahead and blast it up the ceiling and watch for the wall over, pencil it, you count it about 30 degrees.
And then you get on your hands and knees and you can't see a damn thing and you start crawling and you trust what you've been trained with, and you go in blind and you start walking along that wall. And you feel that wall, you can hear sounds, you can hear crackling.
Firefighters have been hailed as heroes for generations, so it's only natural that over time, women would want to join what used to be an exclusive band of brothers. In Canada, the change started in the late 80s as more and more women felt empowered to turn a dream into a dream job.
I wanted to do something that scared the shit out of me. And I thought running into burning buildings would probably do that.
You always liked looking at fire trucks and thinking, wow, what do you have to do to be able to do that?
And it challenged you, to think on your feet and to be a part of a group and to work hard.
I cared about what I did.
I used to look at fire trucks and think, they are the heroes of the society, and they were strong and they could do anything.
Karen White believed she could do anything too. In 1990, she became one of the first professional female firefighters in BC.
And that wasn't intimidating for you?
No. Should have been.
Across the country, one by one, other women joined the Brotherhood. In 1991, Kathy Symington became one of the first female firefighters in Nova Scotia, a volunteer with the Sackville Fire Department.
Once I got my foot in that door, I didn't want to go anywhere. I loved it. That was my niche. I found it, and I was going to put everything I had into it, and I did.
The volunteer now wanted to make it a career, but she quickly learned no one was going to make it easy for her.
When I graduated with Halifax in 1997, one of the officers that came up to me and said, "Congratulations, because we tried everything we could to knock you out, to keep you out, oversized gear, everything, and you still got through it, so good for you."
Why in the world did they do that to you?
I think a lot of the job of a firefighter is sort of like the macho image, the tough guy, so if that's the image and then a woman can come in and do the same job, it kind of maybe to some people takes that image away. I guess they had to do what they did, and I had to do what I had to do and get in there. And then, so no matter what they did, we did get in.
By our count, that's 200 push-ups for people without their bodies. So.
Sure, women are getting in, but they're just trickling in. Of the 22,000 professional firefighters in this country, only 600 or so are women.
Today we're going to be doing a workout I call 10 up.
There remains a perception that women simply can't cut it, that they're not strong enough, tough enough to wear the uniform. So imagine the pressure on the 3 women in this firefighter training school in Halifax. Lauren Thibault is just 18, not one to be intimidated by tradition.
Do you know what percentage of firefighters are actually women?
I do not.
It's about 3 or 4%.
Whatever. It would be one of those percents.
Come on, guys, move!
That doesn't intimidate you?
I'm not really intimidated by it. I kind of like those odds. I think that's hilarious. Like, why not? Like, why is there not more?
Last 24, at ease.
Why do you think it is that it's essentially white males who make up most of the firefighters?
Hasn't it always been that way? Like since way back.
Yeah, it has, but it's 2015.
Exactly. So that's why I'm here.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
This boot camp is designed to weed out the weak. Many of the recruits struggle to get through, but Thibault holds her own.
What's your name?
Lauren.
Lauren? Why are you here, Lauren?
I want to be a firefighter.
What?
I want to be a firefighter.
Can't hear you.
I want to be a firefighter.
Keep it up.
Find your motivation. Come on, keep going. Keep going.
Do you feel the bar is set higher for you because you're a woman?
I'm hoping that's the case because that would benefit me better, more. But I think they're going to push me more or less because I'm younger.
Did you want to be the clown? Huh? Yes, sir. Why are you moving? No excuse, exactly. Okay? First day, a lot of stress, I know. Tired from the workout, nervous.
Yes.
Don't worry about it. Supper comes later.
Today he was getting up in my face and I was just like, okay, just bite your bottom lip. Don't say anything, just look him in the face, whatever.
Come on, move, move, move!
But it may be tougher to break in than she thinks. For generations, the public perception of a firefighter, as glorified by Hollywood, was built around the image of brawny white men. An image reinforced again and again, from movies like Backdraft, where fearless firefighters revealed their courage, to beefcake calendars, where shirtless firefighters revealed everything else. But inside fire halls, firefighters are protected by a sort of firewall. What happens in the station stays in the station. Leanne Tessier spent 10 years working for the fire service in Halifax, rising to the rank of captain.
Any male-dominated workplace is like a boys' club by default, and they have a way of a set value, a set ways of behaving and acting.
And this boys' club can quickly turn a firehouse into something like a frat house.
In the middle of the night, you'd hear the TV on, and you knew damn well what they were watching. And
they're watching porn movies?
Oh, yeah. There was a culture, you'd walk into the guys' washroom and there sits, the penthouse playboys in the bathrooms and people think, well, it's just porn, but you walk into a city hall, you walk into a police station, you walk into any place of business, and you don't see naked women or magazines sitting there. You just don't see that. So, there's a disconnect. It's kind of its own world.
But in some fire halls across the country, it didn't stop at porn mags and movies. like a smoldering fire, left unchecked, the problem would spread. Fort St. James, a small community in central BC, where neighbors look out for each other. Back in 2004, Kirsten Rudolph and Lisa Button signed up to be volunteer firefighters. They'd only be paid $8 an hour, but they knew this job was bigger than that.
I remember it felt really heavy. Because there's a lot of weight to that gear, and I was only 132 pounds at the time, and you're putting on 50 or more pounds of gear. You know, you've got it on now, you're part of a team, and we were learning, you know, it was a pretty cool moment.
It was probably my first time in the training center where I really felt like I'm really learning an art here on how to be safe, and I can help somebody save their house or, you know, a life.
Together, fighting fires in the heat of the moment, the women were in many ways just one of the guys. But back at the fire hall, everything changed.
And what do you remember about that?
Well, they would talk about, you know, what you're wearing, or your breasts, or, you know, your behind looks good in your jeans, or things like that. Or they're talking about just sexual innuendos in general, like, you know, I have a same-sex partner, and, oh, what do you go home and do when you leave here, and things like that. Just unacceptable.
And did that become commonplace?
Yeah, it's not all of the guys. It was just a certain few. I mean, we can take care of ourselves as well. Like, you know, an expletive would come out that I'd go, fuck off, get out of my face, or, you know, sorry. So sometimes we had to be pretty rude to get the point across.
To get them to back off?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But one guy in particular didn't back off. Rob Bennett was the chief.
He would ask me to have sex with him in his office. He would say, if I wanted a promotion, why don't I put on my knee pads and blow him under his desk? On one occasion, he was walking towards me. He grabbed my crotch, and I immediately moved his hand out of the way, and I got pretty angry about that, so I grabbed his crotch and I squeezed until I brought a tear to his eye, and I said, don't you ever do that again. And at the time, I was hoping that would really get the point across, that you can't do this. There's a line there, and you don't touch me. But because I'd done that, I was instantly on his shit list. So I didn't get the training. I got all the shit jobs.
What's coming back for you now, Lisa?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
I guess just hearing that, you know, the first time he touched Kirsten that way. Yeah, just, sorry.
That's okay.
Just brings back the times that he would touch me and make really explicit comments.
Yeah.
And that was somebody I respected.
And how long did this go on for?
Years.
For both of you? Years?
Years.
I was about 6.
6 years.
It would take another 2 years before the women got justice, but it came at a heavy price. When we come back, the fire intensifies across the country.
Shortly after the assault, he sent me another nudity picture.
What was the picture?
It was a naked picture of himself next to a shotgun.
The fight to tame fire is as old as fire itself. Over time, the tools and techniques have changed, but the foundation of firefighting remains the same: teamwork and trust, where everyone has each other's back or somebody dies. Richmond, BC, 1995. 7 women joined the all-male fire department. This would be trial by fire. One of those women was Karen White.
We had a female dorm, so we would often share stories privately. It's an accumulation of things that I don't think most people would believe occur. And I sometimes am surprised that, and I was always surprised that people could behave so poorly.
White was just as big as many of the men, so she wasn't a target. But she remembers one woman who was.
I was hired with a woman that was smaller in stature and pretty much had difficulty from the very beginning. She didn't have difficulty. They gave her difficulty.
That woman was Jocelyn Roberts. Though she'd been fighting fires for years, she was still fighting for acceptance. White says the fight got nasty when Roberts and another female firefighter were on a call.
Somebody had turned their water off or not given them water on a call, so they were up in a fire situation without water. That's a life and death situation.
The women couldn't prove it, but some felt it was a deliberate message.
There was a lot of discussion about whether it was their fault that the water didn't come or that they didn't do something around getting the water to the end of the hose. But the reality is, that's a message of, you don't belong here. Get out.
White was the first of the women to leave. She quit the job she loved. The women who stayed said the sexual harassment and bullying was getting worse, and then they were hit by a sudden tragedy. Jocelyn Roberts committed suicide. Her family says she never complained to them about being harassed. They strongly believe her suicide was not related to the job, but her colleagues were unsettled.
I was devastated. I think that the road to suicide is a very complicated one. And it's not just one thing. But I know in my heart and in the hearts of others who really knew her and listened to her and tried to encourage her and tried to help her and sat on the phone with her for hours and hours, I know that the job had influence on the end of her life. It wasn't the whole soul factor, but it was a big factor.
Roberts, the mother of a young son, received a funeral with full honors, reserved for those who die in the line of duty. The last few women in the department would soon quit. The trial by fire had failed.
We watched all the other women go off, one by one by one, until there was no longer any women left actively working on the floor in Richmond. So what does that say? You know, what does that say when all the women in a department are gone and one of them commits suicide?
What does it say to you?
It says, holy, this is a bad place. There's something going wrong in here.
Richmond did take steps to change the culture of its fire service, but a decade later, little has changed in many fire halls across the country. The Fifth Estate spoke to 24 women across Canada who are working as firefighters today. They say workplace discrimination, harassment, and abuse is still alive and well. Almost all the active firefighters we spoke to wouldn't come on camera fearing retribution, except for these 3 women who agreed to share their stories if we kept their identities secret. Like all the others, firefighting was their dream job, But it didn't take long for the dream to turn into a nightmare. This woman said she was given a blunt message early in her career.
I remember going into a fire during recruit training, and one of the guys in my group turned my air bottle off. And you know, you have no air. And I remember being new and not thinking, and at the time taking my mask and pulling it away from my face to breathe, but you breathe in this hot, terrible smoke. It burns your throat, and you run out.
But when somebody turns your air bottle off, what message are they trying to send you, do you think?
Fuck you. We don't want you here. It was clear.
A second woman felt she was always fighting to fit in, but it was a losing battle. Did you feel at that time that the other firefighters had your back?
It never occurred to me that they wouldn't save me or we wouldn't be able to rely on one another in a life or death situation, but it wore on me. And you just can't go to work every single day of your life under that kind of pressure.
Do you feel that they wanted you to fail?
Absolutely. Some of them did. And I think that attitude really permeated up to the highest levels at times. It definitely was a secret no one really wanted to be told.
And what was the secret?
The brotherhood. You know, it's the very essence and the ideology of what firefighting is. Just by very nature of the name of it. We've never, let's be clear, we've never been part of that brotherhood.
The third woman had just been hired, a new recruit, who was then singled out by one of the men.
There was one individual who, at the beginning, was very nice. He was very friendly. He showed me a lot of new things, and I was brand new. So I didn't really know any better, and I thought that was great that he was taking this time to show me, how things worked. And slowly it started to progress into more than that. He would send me very detailed messages, text messages about certain things, relationship related or sex related. And it continued and continued, and it just got worse and worse and worse.
Sexual text escalated to naked photos. The harassment stretched into weeks, then into months. Did it occur to you that maybe you should talk to the boss, to the chief?
I couldn't imagine bringing those messages to my superior saying, this is what he's sending me.
Why not?
I didn't know how that would be handled, how they would react to that. A lot of the times, in my department at least, they tell you to manage things in station, in-house. Whatever happens in this house, you manage and it keeps in this house.
She felt speaking out would make her seem weak, so she stayed silent. Alone and vulnerable, her torment would get worse.
He forced himself onto me. It was in the workplace, and it was in a dorm. And there was nobody else around. Now it had gone from messaging and pictures to him forcing himself on me. And I still didn't say anything.
Why not?
I was terrified. Shortly after the assault, he sent me another nudity picture, which at this point was pretty common. He had sent me several. This time there was a weapon involved.
What was the picture?
It was a naked picture of himself next to a shotgun.
And you took that to mean?
Be quiet.
Or else?
This is the brotherhood.
When we come back, even a fire chief discovers the brotherhood is bigger than the boss.
This is probably the most disappointing incident of my career.
Down on your knees. Left hand search or right hand search, you pick.
Unlike virtually any other profession today, firefighting remains a male-dominated domain. Here's an example of one fire service that's trying to change that.
Okay, I got it. Perfect.
Here in Ottawa, the fire department has been running this camp for teenaged girls. No boys allowed, in a bid to get them interested in firefighting.
Beauty.
But it's a stubborn problem. Only 2% of the city's 1,000 firefighters are women. Jerry Pingiatori is Ottawa's fire chief. He's determined to boost the numbers. The chief says the reality is firefighters are far better trained to deal with imminent danger than, say, workplace discrimination.
You know, any one of my officers into fire station could take their crew into a hazardous environment like a house fire and bring them out safely onto the sidewalk after they've done their job. Ask that same officer to deal with an harassment claim, very difficult for that individual to do. We have to give them the tools and the ability to deal with those types of issues. There's no question about it.
So who do firefighters call when they need help? Meet Jennifer Pernfuss. She runs coaching sessions to try to eliminate workplace harassment and discrimination. She's been hired by fire services across Canada. Ottawa's problems, she says, are not unique.
Harassment and bullying exists in every organization. In fire service, it's particularly pervasive. Because of the paramilitaristic model, there's a chain of command. So if you're experiencing difficulty and you're feeling mistreated, the person or people that you have to raise it to based on this chain of command is someone who may not be receptive to the complaint, may not know how to effectively handle the complaint, or may themselves be involved in the behavior.
The first step she took was giving the Ottawa firefighters a survey. It revealed 33% of the city's firefighters knew there was harassment and bullying going on in their department and didn't do anything to stop it. Bystanders to the problem.
Even those that are not engaging in it and consider it wrong, they don't speak up, because if they do, they fear reprisal or retaliation. And it's a justified fear because they will pay a price, just as the women will pay a price.
This former fire chief knows all about the reprisals and retaliation that women face. In 2005, Bruce Burrell was hired to run the Calgary Fire Department. Burrell said the force was like an old boys' network. Women were not made to feel welcome. The chief heard about an incident on a fire truck where one of his captains questioned why he had 3 women in his crew, though he referred to women in the crudest possible way, not knowing one of them was sitting in the truck.
When you heard about what the captain had said, what was your reaction?
Well, my blood pressure went up probably about 40 points. We have to investigate, first and foremost. So I did put together an investigation team.
After the investigation, the chief knew he had a problem. So he took a dramatic stand for the women in his department and fired the veteran captain.
You know, you've heard about the blue wall in police departments. Well, there's a blue wall in fire departments too. So, you know, this is a good guy. He's been on the job 34 years. How dare somebody fire him just because he made an offhand comment? You know, I've worked with him before. He says stupid things, but he doesn't really mean them.
And that's when the Brotherhood stepped in, not to protect the women, but to fight to get the captain reinstated.
There's a kind of a perception in the workplace that the female firefighters had complained and the female firefighters had gotten this captain fired. In fact, the complaint came forward, or the issue came forward, sorry, to our attention from a male firefighter who had witnessed it and was uncomfortable with it. I did speak to the people in the station and said, look, you need to understand there's only one person that terminates people in this organization, and that's me.
But the chief would lose, and the harassment would get worse for the women. 2 of them would eventually quit, and the fired captain was reinstated after he apologized.
I did urge them to stay. I did tell them that we would have their back. But you can't control individual behaviors. It is a profession where you have to know the person next to you is going to have your back. That's probably the most critical thing in the fire service.
And they didn't feel these guys had their back?
I think they had a perception that if push came down to shove, somebody might not have their back.
That's the difference, though, could be between life and death.
That could be a difference between life and death.
That's
ugly. Ugly.
And that's us entering the building. There's the smoke.
Across the country, it's the same story, where taking a stand came at a cost. Like in Fort St. James, where Lisa Button and Kirsten Rudolph claim their chief had been sexually harassing them for years.
You both endured this for years.
Yeah.
And in many ways suffered in silence. I mean, where you didn't even know each other.
No,
The fact
I
that both
simply
of you
didn't
were-
come forward because it would have been a he said, she said situation, and he's the fire chief. Who are you going to believe?
But in 2013, the women fought back. The chief tried to grope Kirsten Rudolph's breasts. She says he'd done this before, but this time it was different. This time there were witnesses. She went to the police. 7 male firefighters would eventually support the women in court. But not everyone rallied to their side. The women said other firefighters, friends and neighbors turned against them.
Well, we disrupted the norm.
Yeah.
What everybody was used to.
You disrupted the norm.
We rocked the boat.
So you were now the problem.
Yes.
Yeah, we became the problem. You know, and that's by dealing with the problem, we now became the problem. And that's...
And we wrecked somebody's life and their family.
Yeah.
Well, what about my life and my family? It's been wrecked.
Yeah, this is... I now know why more women don't come out, because this destroys relationships. It destroys your life. It destroys everything.
In his trial this year, former Chief Rob Bennett insisted his actions weren't sexual, he was just being humorous with the women. The judge didn't buy it, blaming the chief for creating, quote, a toxic environment. Bennett was convicted of 3 counts of sexual assault. He's appealing, arguing the judge was biased. The women tried to return to their jobs, but they felt their careers were now lost. They quit, abandoning the job they loved. When we come back, for every woman who quits, there seems to be another one ready to jump in.
This is the scariest part for me because I'm not really that good with heights, but I gotta get over it. So there's only one way to get over it and get up the ladder.
Just training to be a firefighter can be grueling work.
Okay, now today our goal is to actually get up to the top floor, okay? So stay on the hose line, don't let go of that.
This program in Halifax lasts 22 intense weeks.
You must communicate with each other at all times, okay?
One of the 3 women who signed up for this session would quit. But Lauren Thibault, the plucky 18-year-old, is still fighting to make it as a firefighter. After all the trouble so many female firefighters have had, this drill seems fitting for the career ahead of her. She has to lead her partner through a smokehouse, then make her way up to the top floor. Oh, and to toughen up the odds she'll make it, she's blindfolded.
What'd you think of that?
Insane.
But it seems as the training gets tougher, so does Thibault.
It's getting harder every week, but like, I don't think I'd want to do anything else, realistically.
Really? No second thoughts at this point, or?
Actually, no, there was second thoughts, but like, you kind of just talk yourself out of those thoughts because you're just like, you can do it. Like, just stop thinking like that. Just push through it. If everybody else can do it, you can do it. If anybody's still in the class, you can still be in the class.
Firefighters are one of the most respected professions nationwide.
The culture of the boys' club is changing, but ever so slowly, says Bruce Burrell, the former chief in Calgary.
It's evolving as a service. Is it evolving as quickly as some people would like? Probably not. This is massive to the fire service. This has been a huge evolutionary change in about 2 generations.
And how many more generations do you think it'll take?
Okay, can I just be wishful?
Why not?
The sooner the better. It's pretty shameful to be in probably one of the luckiest countries in the world to live in, and certainly one of the most highly developed countries in the world to live in, to still be talking about issues like this.
But for women like Leanne Tessier and Kathy Symington, who fought for equality and lost, it's tough to be optimistic.
But I've lost a lot of who I am, how I see the world. So like Leanne, I'd love to be able to put those rose-colored glasses on sometimes and go outside and see life the way it was, but I don't, and that's very hard too. I've learned a lot from the fire service, Halifax Fire, and very little has anything to do with firefighting.
Everything's fine in the fire department in these male-dominated workplaces if you just shut up. You don't say anything, everything's fine. But as soon as you speak up, as soon as you advocate for your rights, as soon as you talk about anything, it's game over. And God forbid, formally complain against anybody, then that's it.
She's no longer a firefighter. In fact, none of the women we spoke to who fought public battles against discrimination and harassment are working in the fire service anymore. They were trainers, lieutenants, and captains who wanted to make a difference. Forced out in their prime, they say, because they didn't fit in, because they're women.
The more it happens and the more this issue is brought out into the light, the less it's going to happen. You know, evil hides in the corners. It doesn't survive in the light. And we really need to shine the light in those dark corners and show people this is what women in the fire service go through.
It's not even really about my fight anymore, is it? Because I'm not even there anymore. It's about a fight for every person who follows behind me. That someday, hopefully, there will be some kind of protection for them so that they don't have to go through the same thing.
And yet still, they urge young women to follow their dream to one day wear the uniform and keep the fight alive.
What would you say to a young woman today who would interested in a career as a firefighter?
Go for it. Don't forget what's happened in the past. Don't let it alter you, but know what's happened and go forward in a very strong way. So yes, young woman, go strong and go for it.